When you think about solving a complex logic puzzle, you usually picture, like, a quiet room, maybe a cup of tea.
Right. Absolute stillness.
Exactly. But imagine taking that quiet puzzle room and just dropping it directly into the middle of a high-speed car chase.
That is quite the visual.
It is. And that collision of intense focus and pure chaos is exactly what we are looking at today. Welcome to this deep dive into Pragmata.
Yeah, Capcom's newly released, highly anticipated sci-fi action game.
Right. And our mission for you today is to really figure out how this incredibly risky, long-delay title somehow managed to pull like an 85 to 90 average on Metacritic.
Which is a huge win.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we want to see what it actually reveals about modern game design. Okay, let's unpack this. The core gameplay loop here is genuinely overwhelming at first.
Oh, absolutely. It demands an entirely new way of playing. I mean, you're controlling Hugh, right? He's the astronaut handling all the physical combat.
The dodging and shooting.
Exactly. But strapped to your back is Diana, a child android. And while you are desperately diving away from these massive lunar enemies, she is actively hacking them to expose their weak points.
And to execute those hacks, you have to solve a real-time grid puzzle right in the middle of the firefight.
Right there in the action.
Yeah, you are literally scrambling to align color-coded data nodes to break a shield, all while dodging lasers. It honestly feels like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while playing dodgeball.
That is a perfect way to put it. What's fascinating here is how it forces players to use completely different parts of their brain at the exact same time.
Which sounds so hard.
It is. You are engaging your left brain for that logical, sequential puzzle solving on the hacking grid. But then your right brain is in absolute overdrive.
Just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, maintaining the spatial awareness needed to dodge incoming attacks.
And I found it incredibly stressful that Hugh's weapons are disposable.
Oh yeah, the scrap weapons.
You empty your rifle, you just throw it away. You can never fall back on muscle memory.
No, you're constantly scrambled.
Right, to find whatever is lying around while simultaneously trying to connect those hacking nodes, it is exhausting.
Exactly, but the exhaustion is baked into the design.
Wait, really?
Yeah, which is why the game's pacing relies so heavily on the shelter. After surviving that sensory overload, you retreat to this messy, quiet hub.
Where Hugh teaches Diana about Earth.
Right, and it feels like a necessary gasp of air. You need that emotional core to ground the chaos.
It really does. And the contrast between that cozy shelter and the outside world is jarring.
Very jarring.
Because when you step out onto the lunar surface, you're exploring places like, well, a 3D printed version of New York.
But it looks wrong.
Yeah, it has this intentionally distorted AI-generated aesthetic.
Like a city bus just melting into the side of a skyscraper.
Exactly. But human developers painstakingly crafted every inch of it.
Honestly, looking at the source material, I was almost distracted by how visually dense it is. Do you think that massive visual complexity distracts from the gameplay, or does it enhance that uncanny vibe? I think it enhances it, and they pushed Capcom's RE engine to the absolute limit for that specific purpose.
The engine scales up a lot, right?
Oh, all the way up to incredibly demanding PC path tracing. We're talking pushing top-tier RCX 5090 cards just to nail the lighting.
Wow.
Yeah, because when you have ultra-realistic, physically accurate light bouncing off an environment that looks like a hallucinating AI built it dramatically heightens that unsettling vibe.
And they even built a dedicated strand hair physics system just for Diana.
Right, so she feels hyper-real against this bizarre backdrop.
But pushing the engine that hard to render every single hair on Diana's head while simulating two entirely different combat systems at once, it has a serious cost.
It definitely does.
The sources highlight some massive structural cracks. I mean, in the back half of the game, the environment suddenly shrink into these tiny arenas.
Yeah, the scope really drops.
And you're fighting massive bullet sponge enemies that take forever to go down.
Which is frustrating.
Plus, if you're playing on the Switch 2, the hardware is choking. The uncapped frame rate is bouncing erratically between the 40s and 50s.
Well, that is the direct result of the technological strain.
Right.
When the engine's memory is completely eaten up by complex lighting, physics, and that dual-brain combat system, there just isn't enough processing power left.
So no complex enemy AI or sprawling level design late in the game.
Exactly. They had to rely on high-health enemies in small boxes just to keep the game running without crashing.
That makes sense.
It's also why they buried crucial lore in text logs rather than rendering more cutscenes.
So what does this all mean? If the story is a B-movie and the late-game combat drags, Why are the review scores still so universally high?
That's a fair question.
It feels like players are giving this game a massive free pass.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really comes down to the sheer weight of originality.
How so?
Well, the gaming industry right now is heavily saturated with very safe, highly polished sequels. Pragmata is taking a massive experimental swing.
That's true.
Reviewers and players are actively choosing to forgive a messy third act or frame rate dips because of that core mechanic.
The dual brain combat puzzle.
Yeah, it's something they have genuinely never experienced before. The innovation completely outshines the lack of polish.
It really cements Capcom's incredible 2026 winning streak. They are taking wild risks, and it is paying off.
It really is.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Think back to that 3D printed New York level.
The melting buildings.
Yeah. If human developers are now spending thousands of hours meticulously designing digital worlds to intentionally look like flawed, distorted AI creations, what does that say about our evolving aesthetic standards in the age of artificial intelligence?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
Right. Are we starting to view the AI look, those weird melting artifacts, as its own legitimate art style? It is definitely something for you to ponder the next time you find yourself trying to solve a puzzle in the middle of a car chase.